guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today my guest is Giuseppe Grammatico. Giuseppe, I got the pronunciation right? I want to make sure I get the right pronunciation.
Gourmet. We got some difficult names, man. So yes, you nailed it. So I'm sure I got yours correct, right?
You got it. So G's one, we were talking about it. G's one of those, it has so many variations to it.
Yes.
Okay, good stuff. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, your expertise on a franchise, in a model of the businesses, this is a time, business owners, especially, they're looking for a lot of options. Hey, where do I go? We just had 2 years of COVID. Maybe I want to scale up. Should I open my business? Should I, pivot somewhere else, or should I just buy a franchise? I think a lot of business leaders are trying to make a decision. I think our conversation going to deliver tons of value for those people who are looking to make a decision or trying to pivot or add something more to the portfolio so they can scale up. So I'm looking forward to it, learning from you, and looking forward to our discussion. So thanks again.
Looking forward. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
So walk us through, how do you help our business leaders? What do you you have a podcast as well. So what value you deliver to business owners or business leaders who are trying to make a decision?
Yeah, so I have a podcast called Franchise Freedom. I always point to the wrong way. I have a book back here as well. It's Franchise Freedom, and we help people, corporate executives, as well as business owners, figure out which franchise may be a good fit for them, for that corporate exec looking to make that career change, and for the current business owner that is maybe looking for an exit strategy or for diversification. So our process is really kind of working in reverse, figuring out what you're looking to accomplish, and then figuring out, is a franchise for these corporate execs a good fit for them? For the business owner, we specifically focus on franchising. Do they want that system in place that they can maybe convert their existing business, to a franchise, or maybe just looking to create an additional revenue stream? So we really focus on themselves. What's the hot franchise? You don't need me for that. You can go online and do a Google search. We really figure out, what's a good fit for Gourmet, and what is going to be sustainable, which are you going to enjoy based off the role of the franchise. So we really dive deep, and we break it down and look at maybe 2 or 3 companies that are great matches for you, and then continue and assist with the due diligence. So we don't just focus. We help people we place them in franchises, but we really are, the problem that we solve is helping people figure out if a business themselves, if they should even go into business ownership, or maybe look at a different career path.
Very interesting. So these people who are trying to make a decision, where does do they need to consider, do I want to start my own business? I was looking at the quote in the US, somebody, I follow Grant Cardone quite a bit. Somebody asked him, hey, what business should I start? And he said, well, if you look at the numbers in the US, we already have way too many businesses. Instead of starting a new business, maybe you can just take a business that's already existing and just, change some process around it and systemize it and just grow the business instead of starting a brand new business. So, what problem the franchise solves, that generally speaking, in a business, how do people decide, like, do I want to start a new business, or do I want to just take on a franchise model and take on a different business?
Right. That's a really good question. And so I answer it this way. If a franchise in general is a good fit, you have to understand and really see the value proposition. And what is that value proposition? It's simple. We have built a business in a box. We have built a business with systems in place via trial and error, via the capital and the money from the founder to figure out a business that really works. So it's for the person that wants to invest in a franchise, get trained, and hit the ground running immediately. A startup, if you go the complete opposite route, is basically, let me start this thing from scratch. I want to create the logo, the product, the systems. Let me create every single vendor relationship from scratch. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't recommend either or. It's really which is a better fit, I should say. The problem that I see is people that buy a franchise and don't follow the system. Then there's really no point in buying that franchise, because that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the support in the system. The issue I see with startups is that I have a handful of colleagues and friends that I've known over the years that they have this business plan put together on their laptop and they do nothing with it.
Yeah.
So coming from the financial space prior to getting into franchising, what was the opportunity cost of that business plan sitting on that Word document on your laptop for the past decade? So sometimes from experience, I've seen people get into a franchise. They do extremely well because the franchisor is behind you and supporting you. They make money as you're making money, right? It's typically a percentage of the revenue that you're bringing in. And what I've been seeing is that some people may go in with the franchise. This has basically been a trend. Get motivated. Wow, this is great. They experience the lifestyle, and then they go back and explore their startups. So now they own a franchise and a non-franchise business, and that's a great fit. You don't always have to stay in your lane with franchise, and you can own both. So, and then there are obviously companies that are struggling for growth. Maybe it's a local painter, a regional painter that just is struggling with growth. So they could potentially convert their business into a franchise, or and start franchising, or just create their regional, into buying just a couple franchises in the area so that they can have a system in place, because that system will help with certain points, such as maybe customer acquisition, customer retention. Joining the franchise alone gets you a significant discount via economies of scale by having a relationship and being able to cut costs just from the cost of paint, because they're buying in such high quantities and in bulk. So we've kind of seen all different angles, but it boils back to, do you see value in this structure? You could fix your current business, obviously, but the franchise will immediately fix that and assist you every step of the way.
Yeah. When you start a new business, when I started a business, there's no room to make a mistake, because every mistake has a financial, the big one, financial cost, impact on a business, right? So there's a huge cost to it. You can't make a mistakes early on in a business, and that's when you tend to make more mistakes, because you're trying to learn the system, you're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, right? With the franchise model, you already, cover those mistakes. There's no mistakes. You already, gone through that many times, and you build a system around it so you can avoid those mistakes. So somebody starting new business, to me, makes sense to go with that, where all the errors are taken out, so you can simply run with the system and not worry about the errors, and simply multiply and get to the point where you have enough cushion to make mistakes, right? So early on mistakes are very, very critical. It can bring your business down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's it. And sometimes they can't get past that. So they have a great idea. They're just maybe underfunded, right? And they run out of money, or they just give up, because it's entrepreneurship. It could take a toll on you, right? You're figuring things out, but what a journey. And you just have to look at the prize, what that, why you're doing this. And there's much easier ways if it's just money. But if you're looking for time and financial freedom and everything that goes along with it, I would never look back. I am, what did someone say? I'm unemployable, and no one could hire me. I could never work for someone else. But yeah, to your point, a franchise, you pay the franchise fee. It's a one-time fee, and you're paying for the entire system, the processes, the systems, and everything else. And you've essentially are paying for the trial and error and for that franchisor to figure it all out for you. So, it gives you a leg up. I mean, there are certain service franchises where you literally sign the paperwork, go to training, and you could be up and running in as little as 30 to 60 days, which is unheard of. Actually selling, not figuring out what's the best way to sell it, what's our price point. They have it all figured out, so you can literally just get up and running. So, so there's some major advantages there for someone that's looking to really just dive in and go full steam ahead.
Yeah. So what are some of those, I don't use, is that what makes franchise successful? If there's some successful franchise, there's not so successful franchise. From your experience, what do you see? Is there a system? Is there a process? Is there people, good to follow it? What do you see some of those, if you look at the top 2-3 elements that make that, any franchise successful or not so successful, what comes into mind?
Yeah. So there's 4,000 franchise companies in the US alone. So, not all are going to be successful. Many are not going to be around by the end of the year. And there's new ones coming in. There's franchises going on there. And I see a lot of the issues is that, and I can say this personally because I've seen them, with franchises that I know personally. I'll leave it at that. But they have a great product or service that sells itself, but they have no system in place. They're just relying on this great product, which in many cases could be a trend. right? You have the hot thing and it's here today, gone tomorrow. So I see a lot of franchises, great product. They have a support, they may have a slight support system, and maybe they can handle 5 or 10 employees. But what we see is there's certain kind of key points in the growth of a franchise. And when you hit 50, and then the second milestone would be 100, can you handle the support of all these people? Because everyone gets this great support. You know, if it's a location, they get the grand opening, the support, the ribbon cutting, and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, are they going to get that ongoing support when they're struggling? Maybe it's a seasonal product. What do they do in the off season? So I think if you rely too much on the product or service, that's a recipe for disaster and failure. So the companies that really strive are companies that have a system that addresses all the pain points, such as, okay, how am I getting my customers? So we have certain, so I'll give you an example. We have certain companies, it doesn't matter the product or service they're in. They do all the online marketing. It's called turnkey marketing. Okay. Because a lot of these corporate executives looking to make the switch have never owned the business and have maybe never done marketing, or they've been supplied the leads and they would close it. So you have certain companies that will have in-house marketing for you, taking that off your plate, and they take it a step further and say, well, we have this great marketing, but how come it's not turning into sales? So they do research. They speak with the franchise, each of the franchisees, to find out, well, the franchisee was out in the field doing the work, so they were missing the calls, right? Oh, someone was calling. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but if you just go back to your own circumstance, you do a Google search, you call a company for, I don't know, HVAC tune-up for the year, and you call, they don't pick up the phone. I don't leave a message. I just go to the second listing. That's just me.
Just move on.
And that's very common from their studies. So what they did, they said, we will do all your marketing and we will build out an in-house call center so that after 2 rings, if your office doesn't pick up, it gets transferred over to us. And I'm not saying all companies offer this, but I think it's a huge point because these were certain pain points. These were areas where the franchisor took a step back and said, we will take this off your plate because we know, these are some issues that some of the past franchisees had. We want you focusing on getting the word out in your community and networking. So really doing the things you love and having everything else taken care of for you. So support, is key. Marketing, how you're generating the leads, the ongoing support, and the culture, right? You're joining this franchise. You want happy franchisees. They typically meet once a year. So you're sharing ideas. And if you're all in the mosquito spraying business, a lot of those individuals come from different industries. They come from different businesses. So it's great so they can share ideas for growth, ideas for expanding the business and things like that. So it's almost like a mastermind, essentially, where you're getting that included for your royalty, for the fees you're paying. So, and I can go on and on, but those are some benefits.
Very interesting. So, somebody working in a corporate world, or they're working somewhere else, even they're trying to cross that their expertise area, where they could be working in one industry, auto industry, and now they're looking for franchise in totally different industries. They definitely have their learning curve, their growth as well. Having the system, not only you have to learn the franchise system, you got to focus on your own growth as well, so you can match up to some of the the growth as well. What are some of the mistakes you see that generally on people making when they're taking on a franchisee model or starting their own business? There's tons of mistakes we can go through when you start in a business, but let's talk about franchise model. What's some of the mistakes you see that people not understanding what the commitment is?
Yeah, so this is a big topic because this is so. When you're exploring a franchise, some people get sold on the product or service. Not to say the franchise company is doing it, but they may see the restaurant as they're driving home from work and they see a line at the door, so they want to own that business, but they don't do their due diligence, and I think that's key. So just because they're busy doesn't mean they're making money, right? Yeah. I mean, that's common sense. But for a first-time business owner, you're looking at and saying, okay, what's the most successful franchise versus our approach? And I'm a product of the approach, meaning I work with a coach just like myself over 15 years ago to buy my first 2 franchises. And it's really figuring what's the best fit for Giuseppe, what's the best fit for Gourmet. It's not, it's not a one size fits all, right? What is the franchise that I'm going to be successful with? So yes, they have a great system and they have a great business model. But if that requires me to go out, and just assuming I'm an introvert and I have to go door to door and sell, that's not going to be very successful for me. It's going to be super successful for you because you're an extrovert, you enjoy doing that. But if I was an introvert, I think not knowing the role of the franchise, I think is disaster. Not asking that question. So that would be the first. Going back to the due diligence, some people love and speak with the franchise companies, and I know people personally that have done this, and they sign the agreement without speaking with existing franchise owners. So you got all this great info, but let me speak with the people that actually move forward with the franchise. Would you do it all over again? Did the franchise company assist you during COVID? You have these resources readily available. You can walk into any franchise across the country and speak and ask to speak with an owner. They'll be more than glad, for the most part, to speak with you. Other things, and this goes with franchise and non-franchise, is being undercapitalized. I have people that have 100,000 in savings. They want to invest the whole thing, and I'll ask them, you're leaving your job, you own a home, you're the only income, so now your income goes to zero. You invest every penny you have. Who's paying your mortgage every month? Who's paying your rent? Who's paying your student loans? So you need to make sure that you have enough for the franchise. And there are, this is a whole topic in and of itself. There are funding options where you could get an SBA loan or Rob's plan where you can actually use your retirement assets. There are plenty of options, but you want to make sure with those options, you're putting down just enough. You have that nest egg for your personal expense if you're leaving your job, but also you have the buffer for the business. And a good franchise will give you a nice healthy range, not just what the franchise fee is, but this is the fee, this is the marketing expense for the first 3 to 6 months, this is the W-2 employment expense for the first 3 to 6. You have that all outlined, so you have a really realistic idea. So those are things. And then lastly, as we mentioned before, not following the franchise itself. Yeah. It's like, you buy this system and then you're like, okay, I got this, the franchise is great, but I want to start adding items to the menu. I'm not going to do their marketing strategy. I have it figured out. I'm really good at social media. That's fine. You're able to do social media and all that kind of stuff, but you definitely want the intention to be to follow the system. Subway's $5 footlong was actually developed, or it came up by existing franchisees. So does that happen? Absolutely. And they're always open to your input. But if you're going in looking to change things day one, I come back and say, hold on a second. Yeah. The reality is, maybe this is not a good fit for you right now. A franchise is really, you're looking to follow that system. So those are kind of some common areas. So, money, the role of the franchise, and following the system are three of the top.
Yeah, following the systems, I would assume, is one of the biggest one, because that goes back to the mindset. So what kind of mindset do you need? You should have if you're going to take on a franchise. Definitely, you can't be just developing your own items and own way of doing things, because you're buying into a system. So, right. If somebody wants to assess, hey, listen, a franchise makes sense for me or not, what do you think the mindset should be? What kind of mindset the person is going to have? Listen, can I follow, or do I want to just lead all the time, or reinvent that? If I have a little bit, fire, I want to innovate stuff, the franchise model may not be the right fit for me, because I got to follow, right? So it's a different mindset that I'm trying to come up, develop my product line or services, or I can follow. So if we can talk about the mindset, that's got to be important for people who are deciding that, hey, what mindset do I need in order to go in this direction?
Yeah, the mindset basically has to be, what are you looking to accomplish with this business, right? With the franchise, with the startup, whatever it is, with the license. Figure out where you want to end up and work in reverse. And the mindset has to be just being extremely clear on what you want, what you're looking to accomplish, and then figuring out the vehicles that can get you there. And it may be, you may have 5 different vehicles that can all get you there that are a good fit, and then focusing on 1 or 2 of them, right? And not just overextending yourself. So I think the mindset is really getting clear on the value proposition of a franchise, the difference. And I always give my unbiased opinion, franchise versus a startup, what that looks like, and just getting it extremely clear. Being, when I work with people, I just say, the mindset has to be being open to suggestion. So when working with a franchise, you don't really need experience in that industry. A startup is going to be a little bit different, right? You definitely want to know that specific industry. You're going from financial services to lawn care. Okay.
Yeah.
Complete opposites. One has nothing to do with the other. There's going to be similarities with customer service and things like that, and billing possibly. But at the end of the day, you're going to need more of experience, and you're going to have to hire key employees that can really run with it. With the franchise, you really basically get to start from scratch and say, I can invest in just about any business. I would say 99% of the companies we work with, you need zero experience. And sometimes that's better, because sometimes when you have, when your mindset is, I'm an expert in this area, I know what to do, you're not open, right? You have this closed-minded mindset that you have the experience. Then I encourage you to do a startup. If you're not open to learning from the experiences of the franchise who has possibly hundreds of locations across the country, a franchise again may not be a good fit. But if you're in the cleaning business and you were cleaning one way and now you're open to green products and using a flat microfiber mop versus a string mop. I know this is a silly kind of example, but being open to that and learning how well and how much easier it can make your job, I think that'll make you a successful franchisee. If you're closed-minded and think you know best, I think that's when you get in trouble.
Are there different models of franchisee? Gatsby, if it's have a centralized franchisee where they control all the marketing and they do a sales for you, marketing for you, they do a lot of administration stuff for you, customer service gonna follow up for you. They have a higher fee, and if they don't do all that stuff, they pass it on to franchisee itself to do all that stuff, follow-ups and all that stuff. They have a less free, is there different models that people should be thinking about?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So when you're doing a research, when we take a look at 2 or 3 companies that match what you're looking for, these are the questions that you're going to or the areas you'll be reviewing. So some franchise companies have everything in-house marketing, call center. Others will create, the other extreme would be they create the marketing asset for you, and then it's up to you to distribute that to market, whether that be social media, blog posts, videos, and things like that. So but there are fees, just like anything else. So with the turnkey marketing, the royalty may be a little bit higher, and people have come back and said, "Oh, the royalty seems really high," and I go, "Well, what are you basing that off of?" Because if the royalty is high, you want to make sure it's itemized. So if it does include 5% royalty, 2% national marketing, 2% call center, that's and the list goes on. So you want to be very clear as to what you're getting, because in many cases, we had looked at a franchise with a higher royalty, but since they took the marketing and call center off your plate, this model is now a home-based model. You need no office. You don't need an office where your employees are coming. So you're saving $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month in office expense because your employees are now working from home. The service, the technicians are going directly to the homeowner. So depending on what you're looking for, it's really based off of the right questions. If you're not comfortable with marketing, what will you provide me? As far as a service, will you just provide me the asset? And if I'm not comfortable with it, and this one model is just basically giving you all this information to go out to market, and you're just not comfortable distributing it because you have no marketing experience, maybe that's a model we stop exploring and focus on other areas. So, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone I work with, we look at 3 companies, and the goal is after the second phone call with each company to really scale it down, unless you can buy all 3, which rarely happens. We want to focus it and look for the model that checks off all the boxes that's going to be the perfect fit for you.
Yeah. Well, there's so many blind spots. That's why they need somebody like you, right? So you can see a lot of blind spots, right? So if somebody, new to this, looking into franchise, or even they've done it many times, but there's so much to learn in this model, where that's what people need, people like you to sort that out. The research data the franchise provides, is that one of the elements you also consider? Because I see a lot of restaurant franchise coming from US as well. What works in the US, what flavor of the food works in the US, and in certain regions it may not work in Toronto here or different part of Canada.
Right.
So what kind of research they do before they start pushing the franchise in a different region? Is that one of the elements you also consider that's critical?
That's very important, right? We're working with a company now from Europe that the model did extremely well out in Europe. and now they are doing extremely well here. But that was an absolute concern. They said, okay, it worked in Europe. Will that same model work here? So someone looking to convert at the franchisor level, we don't work at the franchisor level. We're helping individuals explore, but these are questions to ask. And there are what we call emerging brands, which are brand new from scratch. Maybe they have a few franchisees created in the US, or they're coming from Canada, they're coming from Europe or somewhere else, and they've had success and they're sampling here. So sometimes it's doing as much due diligence as you can, but you have less franchisees to speak with. So we call this an emerging brand, right? So you may have a handful of U.S. franchisees if you're in the U.S. So it's like, okay, I have 4 or 5 people to talk with. Maybe they've had the business under a year. That would be a slight disadvantage versus a more established brand. But on the flip side, you have almost first pick of the territory and where you can explore and open up your business. But yes, you want to make sure and do your own market data and research, right? It's not just questions to the franchise company. It's really going out and, maybe buying industry reports. If it's a fast food chain in Europe that they're trying to open up here in the US, researching it. If it's a hamburger chain, okay, what are the other chains doing? What are their margins? How is this company different? So it is going to involve some additional research. Absolutely. So sometimes you're not taking a blind leap of faith, but you are taking more of a leap of faith in that it is newer, so you're hoping that it's going to work here in the States.
Yeah. One other item I see in this model, because I have a few friends that they open a franchisee. I see when somebody open a franchise model, the restaurant, like either it's Tim Hortons or you look at a Canadian Tire or any of the model.
Right.
I mean, the whole family goes into business because it requires that big a commitment, right? That the whole family needs to go into it because it requires a lot of labor, it requires a lot of help from family. It requires that kind of investment from you.
Right.
But I've seen many often that whole family goes into that with the very excitement, but when the hard work kicks in, that
Right.
struggle kicks in, the family kind of depart, right? They're not on the same page anymore. So what do you see that what challenges people go through on a personal level? Because it requires hard work, and not all the family members may be on the same page that they're gonna put that much effort into it, right? So, where you see the struggles with the families when they start something and then it's not working the way it should be.
I think it's the setup, and I think this is the thing most people miss, is that if I'm speaking with, just say it's a husband and wife, and I'm speaking with the wife or the husband, either just one half, I should say. The other one is not involved on the phone calls, and I go, well, why aren't they involved? And they'll say, my spouse is on board. They're fully supportive. And I don't really agree with that. When I bought my franchises, I didn't have my wife on every call, but I had her at least on one of the calls just to get a comfort level. You need to inform your family that if you're leaving a job and you're going from $100,000 a year to nothing in this startup, that's going to, obviously there's going to be a change in lifestyle for the household, assuming that you don't have much in savings and things like that. So I think you need to have your spouse, your partner, whoever, in the business involved in at least some of the phone calls. I think you need to tell your family, if you have children, hey, dad or mom or both of us, we're going to be working some extra hours to get this, but we're doing this because we want a better life so that we can be home more, go on vacation a lot more often and things like that. So I think setting the expectation up in the very beginning and not being a surprise later on. And also going back to buying the right franchise and being clear. So when I work with people, I'll say, well, what's your end goal? Is it to work 10 years really hard and then sell it? Is it to create a legacy for your family? Do you want your wife or husband or partner, whoever's involved in the business? And a lot of times they'll say, no, I'm going to run the business. My spouse is going to keep their job. So we get very clear on a very specific model that's going to work for them. So if the kids aren't going to be involved in the very beginning, the spouse is not involved. We want a business that, and on top of it, you're going to keep your job. We're going to want what we call a semi-absentee model, where you can keep your job and the business maybe is run, just say hypothetically, 20 hours a week. So you're able to dedicate half your day and hire a general manager day one. Other franchises will require you to be full-time from the very beginning. So it would require you to leave your job and be fully involved the first 6 to 12 months until the business gets up and running. So it all, I know I keep repeating myself, but it boils back to buying the right franchise. I ask the right questions. The people that tell me they want to buy restaurant, to your point, and then the whole family's involved, I'll ask a question such as, would you prefer a lot of employees, a lot of minimum wage with higher turnover, or more of a smaller, maybe 2-3 employees to start? And they'll say, well, if I had to pick 2-3 employees, which obviously is the opposite of anything in retail. In retail, you're always going to have that larger number for the most part. There are exceptions. So when we start to get very clear on what they want and then compare it to what they looked at, then they have the aha moment saying, oh, I don't need to invest 2, 3, 4, 500,000 in a retail location and have to wait a year to even open up. There are other options where I can open up and be up and running in 30 to 60 days and work from home, have a fraction of the investment and have just, less moving parts. So I think the issue is that people don't realize they have options. They feel like they got to buy this grand retail location to make money when they don't realize there's literally a franchise in every industry.
Yeah. Very interesting. So what is a successful franchise looks like? I guess, for me, if somebody wants to sell a franchise, let's put it this way. So if somebody wants to sell that, the location, so where does the most value put in? How well the franchise was ran? People follow the system, or was it how much traffic it brought in, or was it how much volume they pushed out? So where does the more value comes from if somebody wants to sell their running franchise? What are some of the items they need to consider if they think that, well, I'm going to scale up for 5 years, then I'm going to sell it. So what do they need to build?
Yeah, so that's another good question. So it's equally as important. So how you run your franchise here in New Jersey, and then the franchisor, the corporate office. So when someone is working with me looking at a brand new location, they're talking to the franchise company and then putting together their pro forma. But on a resale, you need to make sure first off that the franchise company is solid, right? So maybe you see a resale listing. Oh, wow, this company is, they made X amount every year, and they've had so much in growth. So they do a lot of research and look at the financials of the existing franchisee. And that's where I see a lot of problems, because you got an awesome franchise, but the franchisee themselves are not keeping their financials in order. We just had a situation where people they're using Excel spreadsheets and graph paper when the franchisor has an accounting system in place for them to use, which I found pretty odd. So as a franchisee, you need to have everything in order so that when you go to sell, I should say, at some point, that buyer can look in and be very clear on your numbers, how profitable you are. But just as important, it's like, okay, this resale is great. This isn't a standalone business. Now you have to go back to the franchisor and make sure that they have a solid business, that they have a growth plan, because even though you're buying this resale, you're still going to be paying this royalty to the franchisor, and that franchisor is going to be your support system going forward. So you need to do your homework on both. You're still going to, find out, meet with the franchise company. They'll have to approve you for the resale, but you want to make sure that you're going to get this ongoing support, and that the local franchisee that you're buying is successful. And ask some questions. As silly as it sounds, yes, you look successful on paper. You're making 100. You're walking away with a couple $100,000 a year, but how does that compare to the other franchise owners in the system? How many territories do you have? Are you following the system? You'll be blown away. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, I followed in the beginning, now I'm doing my own thing. So I prepare you with all those questions to ask so that you have a general understanding, and then you get those notes and then you compare them with what the franchise company says. So it's basically 2 sets of due diligence. But I did a podcast on exit strategies with a gentleman, David C. Barnett, and he talks about just, the day you buy the business is the day you start planning to sell, right? Because if your intention is to sell in 10 years, you're going to have this growth strategy. You want to grow by a certain amount. You want to be the profitability needs to be at a certain percentage, because that's what, people are going to want to see growth. They're going to want to see consistency, and that's going to affect whatever multiple you're going to get when you go to sell the business.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's you gotta get to the numbers end of the day, right? So a number speaks, tells story, and then definitely you gotta follow those numbers. Um, Business owner are listening. Maybe they don't have a franchise model. They have their own independent businesses. They are looking for ideas. What can they draw from franchise model? What is the strength in a franchise model that other business leaders who are listening, who are watching, they can draw something from it. Hey, this is what makes a franchise successful. If I can start bringing some of those items into my business, I can easily scale up as well, right? It will help me scale up the revenue, whatever I need to scale up. So what are some of those items they can learn from franchise model?
Yeah, it's so. I mean, a lot of them are plug and play, right? You have the assets, you put the down payment into the business, you hire the right team. So, a couple things. So, with the franchise, it could be a potential. So, I'll cover a few things. It could be a potential exit strategy. So, if you're looking to sell your business and get into something else, you can get involved on a service-based business for a smaller investment. So, as you're selling your business, you're getting into something else that maybe is more interesting to you. In other cases, it can be an extension. So if you are already servicing homeowners in the New Jersey area, just say central New Jersey, and you're servicing 1,000 homeowners and you're doing residential cleaning, you may buy a franchise that has to do with roofing, and
Yeah.
essentially it's an extension of your business, and you're able to leverage your existing client base and say, okay, well, you've been very happy with the cleaning. By the way, we've just expanded our business. We have another division, you can call it, and now we deal with roofing and siding and windows, whatever it is. Would you be interested in a quote, and potentially use the same salesperson? Utilize the same infrastructure that you have, same bookkeeper, same manager, maybe same salesperson. So depending on the business you're getting into, so it could be an extension, or it works the other way. That franchise is taking off, and you're saying, okay, wow, the roofing business really took off. How can I upsell? What other businesses can I create to service the homeowner? So I'm doing roofing and I'm doing siding and windows. Well, what about the grass? I can start a non-franchise business that involves landscaping and lawn care or people are big on organics and everything natural. So you can leverage that business and the scalability of the franchise and leverage and upsell to those existing customers. So there's so many ways to look at it. You can just convert the existing, as I mentioned, painting business into a franchise and automatically get a much larger discount potentially in your supplies via economies of scale. And some of these painting franchises also have a bigger network of helping you find your contractors if you're a contractor-based business. So now you're tapping into this model, which is obviously there's going to be a fee and ongoing royalty, but if you can save it on the price of your cost of goods and now have access to a much larger network of subcontractors, you may be able to expand outside of New Jersey into the tri-state area, into New York and into Pennsylvania. So there's so many different ways of franchise. So we do a lot of strategy calls with existing business owners to see how it makes sense. And in many cases, it's a direct, or we focus on a business that directly complements their existing business.
That's a great advice for brand building as well, right? Why build a new brand when your brands already exist and you just kind of piggy bank on it and
Right.
become an extension of it, right? So in terms of building a brands or having a market presence, this makes a lot more sense because every time you have to build a new brand, how much time and energy goes into it. But if it's already built, all I'm trying to do is complement the brand with another service.
Right.
That makes a lot more sense. Easy to scale that way, right? And show your presence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have to look too how you want to expand. So I have people that come to me and just say, I live in this city and I don't want to really stray too far from it. So we use a strategy called stacking, where we stay in a smaller market and we may service 1,000 homeowners, and they may have 5 or 6 or even 10 different businesses all offering a specific service, like mosquito spraying, residential cleaning, plumbing, you name it. Some just do bathroom remodels. So you can stay in your local market and truly own the home, if you want to call it that, where you're really just upselling and spending a lot less on the client acquisition piece, because it's really hard to get a customer, right? The customer that is loyal, that is happy, you want to service the heck out of them. So if you have that nailed down, keep the costs as low as possible and just continue to add, different services.
Yeah, much faster to scale that way than
Correct.
trying to come up with a new business all the time.
Absolutely.
How about on operational level? If you can talk about it, franchise are made of systems and process. That's a critical piece in every franchise, right? That it's a big one. A system they need to get a follow. What can business leaders learn that people don't have a franchise, or they have their own independent business, or they're thinking about it? What are some of the elements they can learn, how to build those systems in their company, so they can get their operational level, to the level where the way franchising works. I use example all the time. McDonald's, yeah, they sell great food. They have a great real estate, asset. But more importantly, they have a system that burger tastes the same, feels the same, no matter where you go. It's a price almost same, no matter where you go, right? So they have built a system around it. So what can business owners learn from franchise models that on an operational level? How do I build my business but the same way?
Yeah, you're right. Going back to Michael Gerber, E-Myth Revisited. It's all about the systems in place, and in many cases, the systems can be easily kind of replicated in your other businesses, because at the end of the day, what I see a lot of times happen is that the owner is the bottleneck of the business. I see this happening even sometimes with franchises, where they have to make every decision. They have to okay every single email. They're not empowering their franchisees. So the systems, I believe, are crucial. So an example I use is we work with a mosquito spraying service. And that's not, what business are they truly in? They're truly an online marketing engine. And what that means is that they are essentially, they're killing it with their digital marketing. They have this in-house call center that assists with every franchisee. And oh, by the way, we happen to be mosquito spraying. This business, the way it's set up, can easily be scaled into just about any other residential service that you can think of. So they've built a system, and then it's kind of like in the spoke of a wheel, and you have the system in the center, and then you have mosquito spraying, grass care, pool services, roofing, and things like that. So I think once you have that system and saying, okay, this is automatic, this is what works, we can use the same marketing and use different keywords in order to attract a different customer. So following those systems, you can easily replicate that. And going back to what I was saying in the beginning, it's the role. So, at the end of the day, the owner wants to be happy, right? So what role are they going to play in this business, and what do they have to do? What systems need to be in place in order for the owner to do what they enjoy, which is the networking, but also have the flexibility to take off whenever they want, because they got into business not just for the money, they got into the business for the time freedom. So you can easily replicate these businesses. Now, there are going to be certain things like economies of scale, which are going to be hard to match when you're dealing with a national brand. But the focus really should be on how does it work from start to finish? So how do I obtain a customer, to the first call that lands to our office, to the salesperson going there, to the customer service following up. Once you have that all, and that's given to you, documented in an operations manual and via the training, you really can utilize the exact same systems in just about every business. So some people will just use a franchise for, not saying you're going to compete with yourself and open up another mosquito spraying business, but should you open up a coaching or consulting business, you can use the same systems in place to replicate that in your new business.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, the systems are the same. Once you get to learn it, get a hang of it, definitely you can build as many times you want to build it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And you could replicate, and yes, it's going to be hard to bring in an in-house marketing team or in-house call center. So you're going to have to pivot and maybe outsource that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying it's going to be exact, because now you're dealing with a national brand that has the money to really build this stuff out. But so maybe it's not the exact same thing, but it's going to be pretty close.
Okay. What do you see for last couple of years, what we've gone through recently, what changes do you see in this business, in a space, a lot of changes I have seen, the business, a closing, new business or opening. What do you see that, what area, any specific industry if you can talk about, or any franchise you can talk about, where you see that biggest changes, or what's coming down for the next 6 months? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we meet with 100 plus franchise companies every 6 months at our meeting. We get to talk to the founders, CEOs, and the team, just to find out what's what happened during COVID, what's the expectation, what pivots have been made. And that's a major advantage if we look at any positive from what happened. And that, as someone looking at a franchise right now, you have the ability to go back and say, we just went through, and I'm not saying we're out of the weeds here, but obviously it's still continuing, but things are improving. I'll leave it at that. But what did you do during COVID to step up and help your franchisees? Did you offer additional support? Did you pivot? What service offering, as far as the customer goes? So we had, for example, a boutique fitness franchise that really stepped up and said, we're going to help every single franchise. So each employee from the brand covered, so many franchise owners, and they negotiated with landlords. They figured out a way to offer their gym members virtual access to not just one of their programs, but all the programs, and that kind of thing. So they really stepped up and made it a goal not to have any permanent closure. So that's a huge selling point because they really wanted their franchisees to flourish, to do well in these difficult times. So I don't like fads and things like that. But as far as businesses, anything home service has been exploding. People were stuck home the last couple of years, and the trend continues. Not that they're stuck home, but they're working from home, and they're maybe going into the office a couple times a week, or not. I have family that just they don't go into the office anymore. So anything home service, but now we're more particular. We're looking around. We're like, wow, the walls need to get painted, or I want to redo the backyard since I'm at home a lot more often. So other businesses have been mental health. People have
Huge.
had the need. Just watching the news, we went from COVID to now we're in the middle of a war and the constant bombardment of negative news. So we have franchises revolving around mental health. What else? And another big one, business coaching and expense reduction, where small businesses at one point were not certain if they were going to still stay in business. Do I need to pivot? A lot of business owners went from in-person to what we're doing today, virtual via Zoom. So, so there are franchises that will help small business owners pivot, restructure. We even have franchises that just work off of reducing companies' expense. They come in for free and will come in and help you reduce all your expenses. And then they take a percentage or whatever that is based off the savings. So some people, they've pivoted everything. They did everything right, but their expenses are just out of line, or they don't have time to do that. So there are franchises that do that. So, these are not what I consider trends. I think these are franchises that will do extremely well because we're always looking to cut costs. Mental health, there's always going to be a need for that. Fitness, there's always going to be a need for that. A lot of the brands shut down permanently, not the franchise or the corporate office themselves, but a lot of at the local level, franchisees shut down. So there's always going to be a need, but going back, you want to make sure that even though mental health, just say as an example, is doing extremely well, you want to still make sure that model fits what you were looking for. So don't get too excited about that, but it may be a possibility, but let's make sure it's a good fit personally for you.
Yeah, very interesting. So let's talk about your journey, Giuseppe. How do you get involved into franchise? It looks you get a very good handle on information. It looks like you've been expert for many years in this area. So talk about a little bit your journey, your background. How did you get involved in this stuff?
I think I learned everything the hard way. It's like you think there's an easy way, and we're always looking for that. But so I'm from New Jersey. My first generation Italian. So my family really stressed school. I'm the first person to go to college. My parents did not have that opportunity. So went to college, we owned a family restaurant. I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do because of the hours. So I was clear. I love business ownership, but I work nights, weekends, and holidays. Not so good for social life. So, although ate really well, and I missed that part of it. But anyway, that's another story. So, so I realized that wasn't for me. So went to school, worked on Wall Street, got my graduate degree, went back to Wall Street, and money was great, but I was miserable. 5-hour commute, round trip, door to door, every single day. My pain point was in 2007 when I started my first business. was we wanted to start a family. My son was born later that year. So I knew that with a 5-hour commute, I would never see my kids. And that's the thing that drove me to, I have to make a change. So I worked with a coach and said, I've looked at other jobs and in different industries, and I don't want to be a number. I really want to take control of my destiny. And so after a long conversation and working also with a business coach, so I work with a franchise coach, what I do today, and then a strict business coach. And we found out that my color of my parachute, if you remember that book on Starting Your Career, the color of my parachute, I was looking for a color, but she said, I am looking for business systems in place. And this was way before I read or whenever E-Myth came out. And I said, wow. And she said a franchise would definitely fit that bill. So worked with a coach. Coach was great. A lot of areas I could have improved on. So I bought my first 2 franchises in 2007 and then became a franchise coach and said, okay, these are some areas I wish my coach had discussed with me. These are the things I learned in franchising. So now I want to help people with one of the biggest decisions. And I truly, and I believe this, I truly believe in this. And I want to help as many people as possible. Not everyone I work with buys a franchise, and I don't want them to. In many cases, the timing isn't right. They got fired from their job and they're just upset at their boss and they just want to own a business and they think it's going to be better. So I truly like to level the playing field. If you're making minimum wage or $1 million a year, the information is the same. I'm going to level it. I'm going to give everyone access to that information, and I'm going to help them every step of the way. We don't charge for our services. We get paid from the franchise companies, just like a real estate agent or an executive recruiter. So there's no cost aside from your time. And I truly want to help people with one of the biggest financial decisions. So I enjoy what I do. I was able to sell my businesses a few years back and focus 100% of my time on this. And I really enjoy working and learning about people. And in many cases, if it's not a good fit, owning a franchise, we make I also have the podcast Franchise Freedom. So I may introduce them to a career counselor or an executive recruiter, and maybe that's the best route for them. But it's just me. I have no employees and keeps my overhead low. And I'm really, I get to spend a lot of extra time with each person that contacts me.
Wow, there's nothing better than serving people and helping people out too, and see them grow. Whatever that they decision they make in their life, and just see them flourish and grow. I mean, that's a huge reward.
I love it, and I see so many people making the same mistakes, and it's this is the hot franchise. I got to jump on it while it's hot. Like it's almost like they're treating it like a penny stock or a stock, investing in the stock market. And it goes, slow down.
Yeah.
What do you know about? Who do you know that's in that business? Have you talked to any franchisees? They're ready to sign the paperwork. Yeah. So some people follow the process and some people don't. Some people just dive in. And I've received many calls over the years saying, I wish we had worked together. I bought this franchise and the product is great. The customers love it, but I'm doing $1 million a year. I'm not making any money after 2-3 years. And I wish we sat down and talked. And I said, well, I'm always available. Yeah. I'm not sure if you're financially, you can afford to buy something, but I'm always accessible. And for people that aren't ready to talk, we give them a copy of the book. We have them listening in on the show, and we cover a different topic every week.
Wow. Very interesting. I definitely recommend all business leaders, business owners, or executives who are looking to make a switch or they're looking to take a step in this direction, and reach out to you, have a discussion. You never know. There's a lot to learn from you. You have years experience, and we need people like you to cover those blind spots. No matter what my expertise is, when I'm going to make a decision, there's going to be blind spots that I'm not going to be able to look at all those areas by myself, right? So I'm going to need people around me to be looking into that stuff, helping me to guide me in the right direction. So, right, I will definitely recommend people who are listening or watching, reach out to you. They can download your book right from our website as well, right?
Yeah, so the website, because if you look at my name, it's very difficult to spell, so we kept it simple. So it's my initials, GG, the franchise guide, GUIDE.com, and you can download the book for free, Franchise Freedom, behind me here, my podcast. So all the information is free and accessible. The value I bring for those that are not certain, schedule a 20-minute call. There's no cost for the call or the service, but the problem I solve for everyone is everyone starts looking at franchises when they haven't really done an assessment to figure out if a franchise, which we talked about earlier in the show, is a good fit. So let's figure out if a franchise is even a good fit. Don't waste any more time researching brands when you're still not certain or have questions on franchises. So a franchise is a business. There's risk. I had someone call and say, well, if I don't like it, can I just get my money back? And I go, no, this isn't an item you're buying at a store. You can sell your business just like any other business. So I like to give my unbiased opinion, answer all the questions. Some of the answers you may not like, but I'm very direct and honest. And from that point, you may save yourself hundreds of hours of due diligence realizing it's not a good fit and you should go in a different direction. In many cases it is. And these are the steps, and our process is right on the website. So we just did film 25 FAQs. So if you're still not ready to talk, 25 of your top questions. I literally cover everything from A to Z. If I'm missing something, let me know. We're always looking to expand the library.
No, it's that's a great service you offer, good help you offer. People gotta take that help on, and if they before they make any commitment, right? So they gotta talk to people and make this right commitment for them and their family as well. It's you taking on yourself as one thing, but when you're getting the whole family involved, you gotta be careful, man. It's a big commitment because all the kids involved, your family's involved, everybody's involved around you. So just talk to you, before somebody makes a commitment. So what is the best way people to connect with you? Website is one thing. What is the best way to have a chat with you?
Website is the best way. So GG, the franchise guide on top, and you'll see it all over the website. You can book that 20-minute call. So instead of remembering different websites, so you can book the call. You can send me a message directly. You can view all the resources. You can sign up for the podcast, the blog, any other updates that we have coming out. So go there. You can, and then all my social media. I'm on all channels. I'm going to probably start focusing more on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, check me out there. GG, the franchise guide, or under my name, I post the same information to both. So if you want to send me a message, you can, whatever's easier for you, but go to the website and you have access to everything.
I'm going to include all that information in an email or below the video as well. People can easily click a button and they can connect with you. Listen, I want to appreciate your time. I learned so much from our discussion. It was a great discussion. I enjoyed it, but hope we can help people who are looking into this direction and avoid some of the mistakes, and before they make a commitment, connect with you. I think you're going to add a great value to the journey.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you inviting me on the show, and looking forward to speaking with anyone that needs a little help and guidance.
Well, dude, thank you so much for time.
Thank you, Gurmet. Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Hi there. Thank you so much for investing time with us and watching this video. Hope you enjoyed this discussion. For next episode, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and send your feedback. Until next time, have yourself a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.